Hey everyone, this is Mike Bonn, and today we're going to go over funding your flip. If you have any questions, if you just type them in over here on the chat and we'll get to them. We'll answer all the questions. So, number one, I just want everyone to know this will be 30 minutes. We keep it to 30 minutes. I know it's during the workday, so we try to keep it brief to the point and getting that information. Also, this is something that everyone can do. We've had people from all walks of life, starting with nothing, to get themselves to what we call free in 3, which means with a good plan, good strategy, in 3 years, you could be free from your job. You could be free from anything. You could get into rental properties. You could get into funding your own flips, all those kind of things. We see it over and over. The people who are serious can do this. Most of us, including me, have started with little to nothing. You just have to understand exactly what we can and cannot do here and how to make it as easy as possible. So that's what we're going to go over. We're going to go over today is all about how to find the money. We also have one on how to find and value cash flow properties, because you need the money, but you also need the properties. Third, you need the fix up. We're working on that. We're not contractors, but we do have some tips on that. All of these things are here to at least get you on the path to where you're able to start doing flips, start doing rentals, whatever it may be. But first of all, we have to figure this out. So we've been doing investor-focused lending for 21 years through the cash flow company, which hard money, private money is on the one side, and traditional loans for rentals and stuff is on the other side. Get rid of my phone. But here's where it all starts. Everyone comes and, when they start in this business, they're like, all we need to do is you go out and find a loan. But what kind of loan do you get on a fix and flip, especially starting out? You can't go get a traditional loan, conforming, conventional, Fannie, Freddie, whatever you call it, because of certain factors. Number one is actually the second here, timing. If you want a good deal on a property, you're going to have to be able to close quick and in the condition that it is in. So to make money in this industry, you really need to find properties that are under market, properties that need problem properties, they say, properties that need work on them, whatever it may be. So timing and condition is the biggest thing, because traditional loans do not want to do a loan on a property that needs a new kitchen. Maybe the roof is not in the best repair. Maybe there's some windows missing, anything else like that. So traditional loans, unless you're doing hacking, like where you're living in the property for get in, move in, fix it up, and move on to the next one. And the other thing with traditional loans is they don't want short-term loans. They're not looking for 6 to 12-month loans. You do 1 or 2 and they will not allow you to come back. Sorry about this. I don't know what this system messes up our little slides, but so where does the money come from? There's several choices. And it does change as your experience grows and as you get more familiar. I mean, family and friends, you could have a business partner. Typically, most people in starting out start with hard money, and we'll kind of go through each one of these and why. There's also banks that lend. Usually it's a small local bank that will lend to investors. Most of the large national ones, unless you're a big entity, are not going to. And lastly is if you ever find that golden goose, that person out there who just wants a return, will fund anything you have. We call it OPM, other people's true OPM, other people's money. That's really where someday you want to be. But family and friends, we see it all the time. Easy to qualify, but sometimes hard for them to pull a trigger, to actually close a deal. There's always conditions. There's always everything else. If you find a perfect family member, that's great. Business partners, have everything has a pluses and minuses. The biggest Plus here is low financial risk because typically your business partner is not going to charge you payments. They're going to make all the draws requests to fix everything up to pay for it. The only thing is, typically you're going to give up probably 50% or so of the profits or more, depending on exactly where it comes in, because they want some kind of return. And sometimes they get a little too into what you want to do. So every one of these has a point where they're a great option. But typically when you start out, hard money is where most people start out for the first 2 to 3 years. And it's because of the fast closings. We just did a property and he's almost done with it, but 3 weeks ago, he closed it over in Grand Junction, Colorado. And he was one of 5 bidders in the first 4 hours on the property when it hit the market. And his bid was $30,000 less on a purchase price of $330,000 because he could close in 10 days. And there was no contingencies on appraisals and inspections and all that other stuff. So he got a better deal because he could close quick and there wasn't a lot of contingencies. So he basically paid for his money just in the negotiation. Banks also, banks, typically you're going to find the banks who will get involved in this, their rates, points, and everything is going to be about 50% of what you pay a hard money lender. You're just going to have at least 20% in. You have to follow their guidelines and everything. It works perfect for the right scenario. OPM is, like I said, like the true OPM. It is perfect because you just have someone you call. They just want to return. They don't have all the requirements even hard money lenders have. The problem is just finding those people. They're kind of the unicorns out there, but they are out there. And if you ever find those are the perfect people to align with as you go. But typically, most of these people, even some hard money lenders, want some experience in either real estate, maybe construction, something like that. But banks and OPM, typically they're going to want to see 3 to 5 deals that you've done successfully. So it's good, and that's why we always say hard money for the first 2 or 3. We can help you get there, build it, in 3 years be out of it. So as I said, the majority of investors start with hard money, and the number one thing is speed and condition of the properties. And typically higher leverage. There's a lot of lenders that require anywhere between 0 and 10% into the deal. Depends on how good the deal is. You can lack direct experience in flips or even BRRRR or rentals. Your credit is typically not an issue, or your income. So some of the things that may come up with a bank you could do. This is stuff you can do as long as you find that good property. You want to make sure you find a good property that will make you money, and the money will follow you. So we're going to concentrate right now on the hard money side because it's where most people will start, the majority of people. And there's 2 kinds of lenders. There's the national, there's the Civics Finance of America, others backed by Blackstone. And they're kind of in between a hard money lender and a bank. So they're going to require experience, credit reserves. We call them computer lenders because you put them in the computer if everything comes out. They're pretty good to work with. There's lack of personal touch, but they also do longer terms. Most smaller lenders will do 6 to 12 months. Some of these national lenders will go up to 24 months. On most flips, if you're not in and out in 6 months, you're going to start losing money anyway. And that's why most small companies don't want you in that for that long. Also, national lenders, you're going to find a lot of other fees that they charge. So you have to really do an analysis, and I don't know if I have it. I don't, but I can send it out. It's just kind of how you could comp out different lenders to see which one is giving you the best between rate, points, and fees on any particular deal, which one will make the best deal for you. Local lenders. So that's small lenders like us. There's, just like in the Denver market, there's probably 50 of us. more relational, more looking for people. Like we had several people last year do well over 10 deals. One guy did over 18 deals last year with us. So it's more of a relationship. Um, so, but they're looking for good properties, honesty, solid exits. It's more of a relationship and stories you could get with local lenders. And in the same way, as long as you're doing good, they will lend. You do bad, they'll probably stop lending to you. So, but you're going to see more flexibility. You're going to see less junk fees. And the only thing, local lenders, there's a limited amount of money. So once they're lent out, you might have to find the other one. That's why in both of these cases, in all these cases, if it's hard money or banks, you should always have a list of 5, maybe 7 lenders that you would like to work with. So finding them, calling them, doing a Google search, asking people within the communities of Bigger Pockets or your local Facebook groups who the local lenders are is key. It's hard just to have one. It really is. And I'm a lender, so, but it's hard just to have one lender because there's different kinds of properties, there's different things that come up, and you could run out of money too. So what does a hard money lender want to see on each deal? Mostly it's just a solid deal, a good deal that they know you're going to make money on. A good exit strategy is something you're going to either flip and sell or you're going to refinance it into a long-term hold. But either way, they want to see that you're making money and that the numbers work. So when we see people get in trouble is when they get emotional, when they go to an auction and they bid more than they should. When a wholesaler starts doing best, final and best offers, that's when they get into trouble. So stick with the numbers. What we're going to do now is kind of go over an example. So we need to know some of the lingo. So all of the deals, there's a lot of this stuff out on our YouTube channel too. If you need to know a little bit more, I want to dive in a little bit more on Hard Money Mike. But anything that we do in real estate in our world is value add. That means it's a property that's purchased, something's put in, money, time, effort is put into it, and then the end product is worth more. So that could be a fix and flip. It could be a land parcel you divide up into smaller parcels. It could be a pop top. It could be a commercial could be rezoning, anything like that, where you put in some kind of value and there's more money out of it at the end, and that's what you profit off of, or equity, or you create wealth off of. And in the lending world, we're going to go through 2 different values. As is, where does it sit right now? What's it worth? And just as important, what it's going to be worth when you're done with whatever you're doing. The after repair value, the estimated sale price, the appraised value, whatever you want to call it. We're going to estimate, and this is something that is used a lot in hard money. We're going to estimate what the value is at the end. And part of that really comes down to what you put into it, because the quality of work that goes into it will, and like some people are finishing basements, putting egress windows in, changing walls. Some people are just going in and putting carpet and paint and being done with it. So it depends on what you do, where that estimate could come, because these 2 numbers, what it's going to be worth at the end and what you're going to pay for it, the difference is where all the gross profit comes from. And gross profit is your profit. It's where your costs come out of. And the cost for loan, the realtors, all those things. So this has to be a nice big number. Jackie, ARV 70 to 75% is typically correct. It depends on the property, but most lenders do go to 75%. Minus repairs equal MAO. What's MAO? What is the... And here's why we max out. Most lenders max out at 75%. Yep, correct. Because in this 75%, you have to leave room for your profits, 10 to 20%, wherever you would need it to be. You need closing costs for your realtor to sell it, for the title company, everything else. holding costs, taxes, insurance, interest costs, whatever that be. And you also need some kind of leeway for if something comes up, you open a wall, you find asbestos, or like some people, they've found homes that they've got into and there's meth in the house and they have to remediate it. So you need these numbers above this. So at the end, you actually walk away with number one, which is the profits. So that's why that number is there. You go above that and you're running into a very slim chance of making money. I've been around long enough where this number used to be 65%. Times have changed. HGTV has helped that, where everyone and anyone wants to get involved. So, but let's run some numbers. So so we could have an example. And I always say, if you're new to this, run some numbers yourself, but also have some of these numbers, call your lender, run through them, because it's good to know the exact kind of numbers you will need to get into this. So let's look at an example of a purchase price of $260,000. It's going to be worth $400,000 when it's done. And these are in like two different properties. One's going to take $40,000 to get it to $400,000, and one's going to take $70,000, because we just want to look at the two different. But I think the biggest thing here is you need to go through and practice figuring out ARV, and that's why our next class will kind of go through that. But also, you're just going to have to practice this until it becomes like second nature. Pretty soon you'll be able to look at a property and go like, here's where it is, here's what they'll lend on, here's what I'm going to need, and even the work. So we're going to look at something that has a max ARV of 75%. A lot of lenders, we sometimes go to 100%, but most of the time we want something into it, but we do go to 100% too. But most lenders have something else out there that they'll show a max loan to value, like a 90-100, a 90-90, an 80-80. Depends on credit score, experience, and all that stuff. When you're talking national lenders, local lenders are more like, okay, put in 5%, or, the ARV is good. So what does this mean? And we're going to show that, because what they're saying is they will only lend 90% of the purchase. They'll lend 100% of the rehab, but both those numbers together cannot be greater than 75%. So if this number is greater than 75%, they cap it at 75%. So let's look at the two. So after repair value, we know is 400,000. The ARV was 75%. So we know the maximum loan is 300,000. And remember the difference, this 100,000 in here, 10 to 20% is for profit. So anywhere between 40 and 80,000. There's 5 to 6% for the realtor. There's all those other things that's going to come out of here. Sometimes looks like a big gap, but when you put everything else in there, you can see where those numbers come from. So let's look at this. We had a max loan of 300,000. In project one, where it only had $40,000 in rehab, the purchase price of 260 plus the 40,000 in rehab, you can get to the max loan amount of 300,000 as long as your lender would lend 100%. Like I said, some do. We do on certain occasions also. The other example was you purchased it for 260. You had to put $70,000 into it. So your total cost is 330, and your max loan for the 75% ARV is 300. So you know right away, without doing anything, you're going to have to come up with $30,000. That $30,000, excuse me, can come from multiple places. But at the very least, if they also require 10% down, you'd have to add that to it. But the simple numbers are figuring out what is my maximum loan with ARV. And then coming here, and we have a little, I'm going to throw this out there, a little Excel spreadsheet that you could use to figure this out, even if you have to put in the 10% or whatever. This little thing, there's 3 different sheets on there, so look at the different sheets, because one's a real high level, one's a little bit more detailed, but it goes through and it shows you exactly how you could calculate these. The more you do it, the better you get. Everyone can do this. You don't have to be a math wizard to do this, but it also helps when you do these to call your lender and say, hey, here's the numbers I got. Here's my ARV. Do you agree with that? Or have a realtor do that. Here's the numbers and here's what I'm looking at. I'm about to bid on it. What do you think? But it's for you to do these. So when you talk to your lender, you actually are just getting them to verify it, not do it for you. If you're just calling the lender saying, do all the numbers for me, most of them will put that at the bottom. So where can this 30 grand or 30 grand plus the 10% for the purchase come from? With most lenders, it could come from you, your savings, your checking, whatever money you have. It could come from a line of credit, like on a HELOC or something else like that from your house. It could come from family and friends. Maybe someone in your family is not willing to give you all the money, but they have some money, 30 or 40,000, that they would like to invest. And you could do something like that. You could either secure with a deed of trust or something. You could also there's a lot of individuals out there who just want to lend gap money, they call it. And that's typically the difference between what the first lender will have and what you need to finish it. So there's gap lenders. They're going to charge a little bit more. I want to get all my phones going off. The gap funders are going to require typically a higher interest rate, but a hard money plus a gap funder is still typically you will walk away with more money than a business partner if you feel to go that way. Business partners are good if you don't want to worry about the finance at all. They just take care of everything. They could just put the 30 grand down, or they could finance the whole thing. Either way, each of these people have, or each of these sources of funds has a plus and a minus. Like savings, you would have to come up with it. Line of credit, you're taking out a loan on your house. Family and friends, maybe they get too involved. Same with business partners, gap funding, the interest rate costs a little bit more. But your goal here is to come up with a plan where every time you do a deal, you need less and less money to fund it from someone else. Or you just leverage it out a little bit. Do too many properties, I see people get in trouble. So we are doing good on time. So I just wanted to come up with just a little thing of what we do. Typically we will go up to 75% ARV in most markets, unless it's a really, really small market. And a really small market to us, unlike national lenders who won't go anything under 50,000, we'll go up to 1,000 in population. We can go up to 100% funding, just depends on the deal. And if we've done one or two deals with you, we do not require appraisals and escrow charges, anything else like that. Our starting rate is at 9.5 and 2.5 for the first two deals, and it goes down. But we also have conduits for national. If you have 20% down, who will do the 2 years, and we could get under 8 and under 2 points. These are all great, but you just need the experience and you need the money. Most people, start with hard money up here because they need the experience and they need everything else. And we have lots of stuff on YouTube, lots of information on YouTube. You can watch some videos and all that other stuff. So, and next, these dates are wrong because this is the last one, but coming up this Tuesday, we will be doing one on finding properties. How do you find them through wholesalers, real estate agents? How do you quickly value them? Because if you could figure out high-end the money side and the properties, and you'll know if it's a deal or not, if it's worth going out and looking at them. So any questions? Jackie, is it rentals or flips you're working on? Either way, 150,000 typically is a great place to start. And it also depends if you're talking about places like California or Colorado or somewhere where the price points are different. I mean, we do loans in Oklahoma and Texas and Ohio and some in Florida and looking at South Carolina. Price points there, 150,000 does the whole deal. Price points in Colorado, it's, you know, you're talking a $700,000 deal compared to maybe a $125,000 deal. In Oklahoma, you are very good to get into both. And maybe you want to look at the BRRRR for some of the rentals if you're already looking at wholesale or undervalued properties, which means you find a property that's undervalued, you fix it up, you buy it and fix it up with private money, and then you refinance it into either a traditional loan or a DSCR loan or something like that. That way it conserves your capital. You can put less and less in. Okay, so the BRRRR is great. If you set it up correctly, you could do a rate and term within, you know, typically it was 45 to 60 days after you close, from close to close, if everything's set up correctly. Any other questions? If not, my email is mike@hardmoneymike. If you want to set up a time to talk, you could either do it with me or Sarah. And we could go through your particular questions or deals or strategies. But we do believe it is the people who work this, doesn't matter how busy and crazy it gets or the market's up and down. Right now, the markets are hot in most areas. And then the foreclosures, someday they'll open those back up. And for investors, that's typically a very good thing because you'll get better deals. But in any kind of time, this worked correctly. The investing, flips, and rentals is a great way to take, you know, control of what you're doing. And we see everyone from every walk of life, from experiences, they have it or they don't, come in this and be very successful. So if there's no other questions, I like to keep it to 30 minutes, and we're coming up on 28 minutes. So with no other questions, please just reach out to me. Anybody reach out to me. This video will go out to everyone who registered. So you'll also see this, and you could go back and look through stuff. And just remember, on Thursday at the same time, we're going to go over finding properties, cash flowing properties. But I'd like to thank you, and we'll talk to you guys soon.